Well, hello, my NextGen fam. Welcome to another episode of Mentor Moments with NextGen HQ. We are so excited to talk about financial peace and independence with today's mentor. So we're just going to get right into it and introduce you to the lovely Ryan Sterling, who is going to share a bit about his journey, his expertise in wealth coaching and management, and all the fun goodies that come. Ryan is a wealth coach, a financial advisor, author of 30 Days to Financial Peace, and the host of a podcast, Take the Next Step with Ryan Sterling. He's super passionate about helping people achieve their financial goals. And that is so many of the reasons why we are so excited to have you on with us today, Ryan.
It is great to be here. I should just make one correction.
Sure.
My book is You're Making Other People Rich. 30 Days to Financial Peace is my course.
Oh, amazing. Thank you. So we've gotten even more goodies for you
Yes.
right off the bat of this. Thank you so much for that, Ryan. We appreciate it. It seems very much like there's a thread between everything that you're creating and everything you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. So we're going to get started with a couple rapid fire questions. It's a bit of an Action HQ tradition. We want you to feel comfortable. We want our audience to feel comfortable and get all kinds of cozy with one another. So I'm going to throw out some quick questions for you, and whatever pops to mind is your answer. Are you ready for me?
Let's do it.
Amazing. What is one book that you'd recommend?
Ego is the enemy.
Oh, you knew that right off the bat.
Oh yeah. It's the one that I gift more often than any other book. Ryan Holiday, Ego is the enemy.
I love that. Amazing. What is your perfect way to start your morning off?
My perfect way to start my morning, I'm a big fan of not being rushed. So waking up whenever I wake up, I don't set an alarm clock. And my wife and I, we have coffee on the couch and we chat and we watch CNBC's Squawk Box.
I love that. That sounds like my dream. I wake up very early so I can have a slow morning. So I totally feel you on that point.
Yeah.
Amazing. What is your favorite animal and why?
Dog.
Oh,
They're amazing. I mean, they're just my dog. She's right here. She's like a toddler. She's in the room right now with me.
amazing. And what is one way you like to de-stress after a very hectic day?
De-stress. Probably go running, I would say, is my number one form of de-stressing. That and or listening to a podcast and just completely just letting go and just letting be what is.
Oh, I love that. Any podcast you're currently binging at the moment, really loving?
Oh man, so many. I love the Rich Roll podcast. That's probably one of my favorites. Yeah.
I love that
It's
one.
like, oh my God,
I originally found it on YouTube, actually. So I just started
really?
watching like the full video format, sitting on my laptop, captivated. He is a fantastic interviewer.
So good. He's my favorite. Tim Ferriss is another one. The one I just found that I love is the armchair expert, Dak Shepard.
Oh, I've seen it advertised on Apple Podcasts before.
So good. So good. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, we've gotten a lot of tips and things for our audience to already look up just from the rapid fires, Ryan. So I think it's time to dive in a little bit deeper into your story and what your entrepreneurial journey has looked like. I know I'm really excited to hear a little bit more about it. But it seems as though throughout kind of the course of your professional career, you've been really interested with the financial industry and helping others really kind of find that independence and that security. But I love that you found a way to bring an intentional, holistic approach to everything that you're doing. Was there an experience that you had earlier on before you started that made you realize how important those two elements really were together?
It's a really good question, and I would say it's my own personal experience. So I've been in the wealth management industry almost 2 decades now, which is crazy. So started right out of college, again working with wealth management, which was really the perfect mix for me. I'm an analytical side of my brain. I like numbers. I flocked to the stock market. I just understood it. It's something that really just, I think I like the energy of it. I just liked the feel of Wall Street. So I was very much attracted to financial services and specifically something that could get me close to investing. But at the same time, I really like people. I like stories. A social person. So just being able to combine the markets with actually working with humans was the perfect fit for me, as opposed to having the clients be like a corporation. So, I was kind of the classic, just really focused on my career, looking at the next step ahead of me, going from, analyst, associate, senior associate, VP, senior VP, so on and so forth. And I was checking all the boxes. I was, at the age of 35, I was exactly where I wanted to be in my career in terms of what the blueprint that was in front of me when I was 22. Again, checking all the boxes. I was making the income that I wanted. But I looked around, I just looked at the life that my wife and I created for ourselves. And we were consumers. We were consuming stuff. We were consuming bad energy. We were consuming bad food. We were caught in this like cycle of consumption, I call it. And the irony was, I'm working in wealth management. I'm helping people achieve their financial goals. I'm doing all the right things in my career. I'm developing this really good relationship with my clients. I'm helping them achieve their goals. But my wife and I, we were neglecting our own personal balance sheets. And again, it was one of those moments, I think maybe it was just a milestone 35, whatever it was. But I looked around, I just said, did we create the life that we wanted to create? Or are we living a life that was designed for us? And that's when we stopped and we just said, wait a second, what do we want? And it can't be more money and it can't be material things. And when we asked and answered that question, it came down to, we wanted a better personal connection with each other. We wanted more peace. We wanted more independence. We wanted more autonomy. We wanted more agency over our lives. And here we were spending in a way that was completely against that. We were spending in a way that was getting us tied to jobs that weren't fulfilling us, that were making us dependent on the next bonus and the next paycheck, as opposed to living and spending in a way and using this amazing resource of money in a way that's getting us closer to the life that we actually wanted. So that's when we completely said, okay, we understand the math of it all, but now we need to develop a better relationship with money. We need to, again, use money as a resource to live our best, most intentional life, not just as a resource to buy more stuff.
Brian, there's so many questions that just popped into my mind hearing you talk about this. I will say, I think there's no stronger way to start a company or build a brand than on personal experiences. So I love that you face this, you and your wife face this, and we're really like, how do we make our lives more fulfilling? And then how do we help others create that same sort of fulfillment and enjoyment for themselves as well? I think that's so powerful.
That's right. I say this, that, there are suppliers of labor and they're owners of capital. And we were a supplier of labor, consumer of stuff. And we didn't own anything. We didn't own our life. We didn't own our outcomes. We didn't own really any sort of assets. So the whole framework that we put together was going from being, again, a consumer and supplier of labor to being an owner of capital and an owner of life on your terms.
Getting out of that cycle of consumption, as you call it, and into just being an owner of your life, your business, the things that you have, kind of really everything in a nutshell, it sounds.
You got it.
Amazing. I want to pick up on something that you said earlier, and then we'll dive into way more questions to come. But you said you kind of started within the wealth management industry right out of college, it seems. And I will say that for many people that you're going to be connecting to through this interview in our Next Gen network, they are college entrepreneurs. They are really trying to find themselves and find the way that they can live the most fulfilling, most momentous life. How did you know so immediately that even from a very young age, that was where you were called to be in some way, shape, or form?
It's a good question. And I wish I could give you the answer that it was something that I had been planning since high school. And the reality of it is I have two different sides of me. I have a kind of a rebel artsy side of me, but I also have a side of me that's like fiercely practical. And I've explored both. And I will say that in my personal experience, I think it's way harder to be the creative rebel type, because you have to be 100% all in, where I didn't necessarily need to be 100% all in on the practical side of my life. So I say that because I've always had this tug of war. But for me, the side that won out when I was graduating from college was the more fiercely practical side of it. So I was looking to go to Wall Street. And at the time, this is the early 2000s, I wanted to be an investment banker. Now, I had no clue what an investment banker did. I didn't know like the job function. I didn't know what clients they worked with. I didn't know the ins and outs of the job. I just know I wanted to do it. But I think that was me more saying I wanted to be in finance. I wanted to be on Wall Street. Again, I mentioned that I was attracted to the energy of working with stocks and working in the markets. Again, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So as far as getting into wealth management, it just so happened that's where the job offer came. And I was just looking for the first job that would, again, get me into financial services. And it just so happened to be just so perfectly suited for who I am. And that's really why I never left. But I will say there was also a part of me, again, this tug of war that I have with my, kind of rebel creative side and then my practical side. I will say it was probably about 5 years into being in the wealth management industry where I said, you know what, I think I could start my own firm. And I think I could do things the way that I want to do it. So I was definitely the entrepreneurial side of me was kicking in probably a couple of years into working at a big corporation. But it just took though a kind of a personal reckoning for it to really to be the catalyst to say, wait a second, now's the time. It's now or never.
It seems like a lot of your journey has been made up of these experiences of kind of these personal awakenings and these realizations that, you know what, I am two-sided. There are both parts that I want to explore. So how am I going to be able to create the life and the business that I want that allows me to do that?
Exactly. And I will say that, I think about my mornings now or just my days now, and, they're like this morning, I was making trades for my client accounts. But at the same time, I wrote a LinkedIn post and that was more kind of growth mindset focused. And then later on this evening, I'm going to be editing a podcast that I'm going to release next week. So I'm able to now be in this world that I've created for myself where I
Mm.
can be fiercely practical in the sense that I own a wealth management firm and I have real clients and I provide a real service to the clients in a professional capacity. But at the same time, I'm now able to attract clients that I want to work with, people who are more like me, people who are consuming content that isn't just boring finance content, but more, and this is a big part of my brand and my personal brand and my image is the idea of using money as a way to design your best, most intentional life. So using it as fuel for a growth mindset, because that's what I'm all about. So the clients I'm attracting are very much into that. So it's one of those things where I can use the creative side of me to create the clients that then are clients of this fiercely practical side of me, which is a wealth management firm.
You brought up something there that I want to continue on this train of thought with, because I feel like a lot of people, especially the millennials and Gen Zers who you're reaching right now, they do find that the financial world literature, just understanding it is a little bit on the drier side. And
Totally.
oftentimes I find myself there too. You said you used the word boring, so I'm going to use your word.
Yeah.
But I love how you're kind of reframing that and you're asking people to really see money as resource, as energy, not as something that is meant to be shoved into a corner and not talked about or worried about or kind of possessive over. But especially placing that into the context that we're in right now with COVID, with so many individuals not really being able to make a lot of money, especially entrepreneurs who are just starting businesses.
Hmm.
How do you feel you would encourage them to maybe even use these challenges that they're facing right now to get themselves to a place of seeing money as a resource and as something that will just allow them to build the life that they want?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mean it's tough because right because especially when you're in the journey and things are difficult, it's you hate it when someone tells you, "Oh, you're gonna miss this someday," right? Like just be in it and just fight through it. But the reality of it is like that's really what you need to do, right? In that Obviously we need money to survive. So if you need to do some sort of, if you have a business right now and you need to do some sort of side hustle to earn more money, um, I, I would do it. And I think now more than ever, there are ways to earn money in new creative ways that don't require you to be tied to a corporation. Um, and then I would also say though, too, that while you're on this journey and you're exploring, different ways to make money, receive the information that you're getting, right? So like, for example, I can think of one story I've heard recently where somebody was trying to start a business. I can't remember what the business was, but they needed to make some extra money, so they became a virtual assistant, and they took on some clients, and they started doing really well as a virtual assistant, and now they have a whole agency where they're no longer the virtual assistants. They actually, are the person that people come to, and then they outsource it to a team of virtual assistants they have. And they now have an online course to teach people how to be virtual assistants. So this all happened organically through the struggle of, how do I make some extra money while not having to go and be tied to a corporation? So that wasn't necessarily the intention, but that's what the universe gave them. So I would say that if you're starting a business, if you're struggling right now, if you're not able to earn some money, number one, be okay with that. Be in the journey, be in the struggle. Every story of entrepreneurship has that. It's the price of admission. I'm sorry, it is. Um, but I understand the fact that you also need to have an income. You need to support yourself. So again, I can't stress enough, go find a side hustle. Think of what you can do to bring in some extra money, but then also open yourself up to receive, because you might be getting feedback that you wouldn't be thinking of otherwise.
I love that. So kind of two-folded for everyone who's listening to this. First off, just kind of learn to lean into the uncomfortable situations and learn to be okay with the struggle as much as possible, because that's kind of the journey of all entrepreneurs, as you say, that we do definitely need to make that narrative a little bit louder
Yeah.
than those. And then the next side of that, explore other options for making some money, starting a side hustle, because you truly never know where those options can then become opportunities down the line.
Exactly. It's funny. I read the book. This was earlier this year. I read the book Shoe Dog. It's the memoir from Phil Knight, the founder of Nike. Great book, right? And the interesting thing about Shoe Dog is, he starts Nike in the I think it was like late 1960s. It was a completely different company. It was called Blue Ribbon when he first started. And I'm not going to ruin it for people, but he was an accounting professor part-time because he needed to earn some extra money. But the thing about the book that's amazing is 90% of the book is the struggle. Maybe it might even be 95% the struggle. And then 5% is oh yeah. And then we went public and we signed Michael Jordan and we became a multi-billion-dollar company. Yeah. That part's really not interesting right now. So when Phil Knight, multi-billionaire, is looking back at the start of Nike, it's not the 1980 post IPO. It's the 1972, we're one sale away from either going out of business or having 1 month left of the company.
That was why I enjoyed that book so much, as well as Howard Schultz's Onward, which is kind of all around like the idea of like how Starbucks continued to struggle and survive through the financial collapse. Again, like 90% of it is, we don't know if we're having to shut our doors and fire all of our employees. And I think it's just so much more relatable, right? When you don't just hear about all of the golden successes of entrepreneurs,
Totally.
but when you hear about how they really had to dig deep and get through things that so many of us are kind of currently facing.
That's right. And, I'll tell you one thing, this is an interesting story. So there's a company, I'm not going to say the name, but a company that was consistently rated one of the top places to work over the last couple of years, like consistently Crane's best places to work. It was always in like the top 5. I knew some people who worked there, and it was a great culture. It was an awesome place to work. And they didn't necessarily pay as much, but you were willing to take somewhat of a pay cut because it was such a fun, amazing culture. When the lockdown first happened in March, within 2 weeks, 90% of the staff lost their job. So I say that because people talk about the grind of being an entrepreneur and how risky it is. But you know what? In certain respects, it's also the safest thing you can do too. And even though you have those sleepless nights and you have those months where you're like, gosh, I need to land this account. If I don't, like, can I keep the lights on? There's an illusion of safety working at a company. And at the end of the day, there really is no safety. It is all an illusion. And that's why, like, the way that I think about it now, being an entrepreneur, I actually feel way safer being an entrepreneur because I know how resourceful I am, and I know I'm going to make it through the most difficult of times. Where when you're working for a company or corporation, they're going to do what's in the best interest of shareholders, and that's not wrong. That just is a fact.
Exactly. What a refreshing perspective to hear on entrepreneurship, that maybe it's actually one of the safest things that you can do. But again, I think it goes back to what we were chatting about before. No matter what situation you find yourself in, you're going to face struggles. There's going to be risk and uncomfortable situations involved. So why not focus on being resourceful and building your sense of that, just to barrel your way through whatever comes.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
Ryan, we've been chatting for, I think, about 25 minutes now, and I don't take up too much of your time, but we have one final question. We ask all of our mentors this. Again, you're talking to the next generation of leaders right now, those who are innovating, creating companies, growing big brands. What would you say that your hope for the next generation of leaders is?
It's a really good question. I mean, my hope, I hope we're sitting here in 2030 and this decade has been an entrepreneurial revolution. And I hope we have a lot less people working inside traditional corporate jobs and more people, again, out there using their skills, using their expertise, using their resiliency, using their knowledge to serve people. And if you are of service, you will be successful. And guess what? The number one driver of new jobs are small businesses. So I would love to take it from most of the people working in a multinational corporation, right? That's going to do what's in the best interest of shareholders at all time. And again, that's not wrong. That's just a fact. To having just more often than not, people owning businesses and then providing opportunities for people who are then going to start their own businesses and create this entrepreneurial momentum and ecosystem where most people 10 to 15 years from now are owners of businesses. And I think that is going to be the best thing for society. In that, again, people will feel the ownership, people will be of service, people won't just be going in supplying their labor to a job they're lukewarm about. And I think all of us are going to benefit from it.
You definitely by far have had the best answer to that question that I've heard. Ryan, we are in this together. Let's be the change makers for the decade of the entrepreneurial revolution that we are starting right here.
I love it. I love it. And remember, don't make other people rich, make yourself rich, invest in yourself, be an owner of capital. Do not be a supplier of labor. Can't stress it enough.
I love it. If any one of our next geners is curious to come find a little bit more out about you, follow all of the many things that you're up to and helping them manage their wealth and financial plan, where can they come connect with you?
I would say go to my personal website, ryansterling.com, that has basically the links to my course, my book, my podcast, my wealth management firm, which is called Future You Wealth. So that's really the best place to go to work with me in all different capacities or just engage with me going forward.
Amazing. Y'all, you need to run to this website right now so you can get on this entrepreneurial revolution train. Ryan, thank you so much for taking so much of your afternoon to spend with us today. We so appreciate it.
Oh, so much fun. Thanks for having me.
Amazing. Next Gen fam, we'll see you for another Mentor Moment soon. Bye, everyone.